On today's video, I'm going to be reviewing Cellucor C4 Original Pre-Workout to find out if it'll help your workouts or if it's just a bunch of marketing hype. Hey everyone, Selwyn here from Wynn, where the goal of the channel is to help you get a little bit stronger every single day. On today's video, we're just going to do a quick review video going over the C4 Original Formulation Pre-Workout by Cellucor Nutrition and see if it actually lives up to the hype or if it's just one of America's #1 selling pre-workouts. It's one of those pre-workouts that's kind of available everywhere. I purchase mine from Costco whenever it's on coupon sale. I'll talk about the pricing later in the video, but I also will leave links below so you can check that out on Amazon if it's something you do want to purchase. So I have personally used pre-workout for a few months. These are my thoughts about how it tastes, how it feels, as well as we'll go through the ingredient list and see if it's actually worth your money. So we'll talk about serving size per scoop. This would be just one standard dose. You can feel free to increase the dose from 1 to 1.5 to 2 scoops. I think it'll say on the label whether or not that's safe. I've used 2 scoops in the past just because that tolerance to caffeine is something that does build up for me quite quickly, but it might vary for you depending on how you take in caffeine throughout the rest of your life. So we'll start off with beta-alanine. The C4 does include 1.6 grams per serving size. It is clinically studied to improve sports performance, and it's mainly shown to help improve muscular endurance, so you'll be able to perform maybe 1 or 2 extra reps in the gym. So the clinically effective dose that they've studied is 2 to 5 grams. Unfortunately, if you do stick to that 1 scoop serving size, you are getting slightly underdosed ingredient here of this beta-alanine. When you do take some beta-alanine, depending on your individual tolerance for it and how your body reacts to it, you will feel kind of a pins and needles or an ants crawling across your skin type sensation. That kind of dissipates within 20 minutes, and kind of the longer you take beta-alanine, the less intense that feeling feels. I definitely feel that even now when I take beta-alanine supplements, there's a mild tingly feeling that I get. The next ingredient we'll go over is creatine nitrate. We get that in 1 gram per scoop. This is basically another form of creatine. Your standard dose, your standard form of creatine is creatine monohydrate. That's pretty much the oldest, most well-studied, well-researched, safe and effective version of creatine. It's also the cheapest. Creatine nitrate really just serves to attach that creatine molecule to a nitrate molecule in order to help make that creatine molecule a little 10 times more soluble in water. The lab shows that doesn't really mean much when you ingest it in the human body. It doesn't absorb any better or any more so. It's not more effective than standard creatine monohydrate. Because it isn't shown to be effective, there's no effective dose range, so it's really not a recommended version of creatine. So the next ingredient is going to be arginine alpha ketoglutarate. We get that in 1 gram per scoop, otherwise known as arginine AKG. This is simply an amino acid that is reported to increase blood nitric oxide level, with the purpose of that trying to improve your pumps in the gym. It's meant to help improve blood flow. Whether or not that has a long-lasting effect is hard to prove in the labs, just because the body does prefer homeostasis, and you can get acute dilation of the blood vessels, but how long that lasts is kind of up in the air, whether or not these supplements are actually effective. They do create a little blue pill, which serves another purpose in the medical world that does improve vasodilation and nitric oxide levels in the blood, but we don't really use that in the gym. In any case, arginine AKG, the recommended dose from the studies that do exist, report anywhere from 11 to 18 grams per day spread across 3 doses. C4 only has 1 gram in 1 scoop. So unless you plan to take just about half that bottle over the course of a day, you're not getting anywhere near the necessary dosage of this ingredient, if it even does work. So next we'll move on to the Explosive Energy Blend, which is just a proprietary blend of smaller ingredients. We only have 425 milligrams of every single ingredient listed here. The only one I think they're legally required to talk about is caffeine, and that is 150 milligrams contained per scoop. We're kind of I'm guessing we're all familiar with caffeine. It's a stimulant. It does help to provide more mental alertness, and it might help transition over to being able to perform a little bit better in the gym just because you are more mentally awake. So researchers tend to stick with 3 to 6 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. For someone in my weight range around 200 pounds, that equates to anywhere from 3 to 450 milligrams per day. I regularly exceed that recommended limit, so keep that in mind with my own viewpoints of how this works as a stimulant. I definitely need a lot more caffeine for a pre-workout for that to have any meaningful effect in the gym. Your individual tolerances and your own body's reactions with caffeine are going to be different here. So again, anything with any stimulants in there, I would highly recommend starting off with maybe half a scoop, especially if you don't drink caffeine regularly. You might be pretty sensitive to caffeine, so stick with that half scoop and then work your way up after a week, and you'll see how that feels, just because too much caffeine isn't great, and that's not a productive feeling in the gym. It's going to be counterproductive if anything. So we're starting off with the only known quantity ingredient, so that means we only have 275 milligrams of all the other ingredients in whatever parts they seem to put in this proprietary blend. The next ingredient is going to be N-Acetyl-L-Tyrosine, which is another amino acid, and that is meant to help buffer noradrenaline during stressful situations. Some studies find that this does help buffer the adrenaline receptors in the brain just so you don't feel as stressed as quickly, so it kind of reduces the acute stress response and kind of spreads that out just a little bit. And the clinically effective dose ranges from 100 to 150 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. So that is roughly 9 to 13 grams of this amino acid for a 200-pound individual. Even if the entire explosive energy blend was dedicated to N-Acetyl-L-Tyrosine, we're nowhere near 1 gram. We're 425 milligrams of that ingredient. Again, you would probably have to take half the tub to get anywhere near an effective dose. So the next ingredient is going to be velvet seed bean extract, which has the chemical name of Mucana pruriens, standardized for L-Dopa. So this is one of the weirder ingredients that have been included in the formulation, because the studies that have looked into it have actually found it does help with Parkinson's disease and help with treating male fertility issues. So I'm not too sure what they're including this ingredient for, maybe for that male fertility reason. But in any case, the clinically researched doses are 5 grams of dried powder per day. Again, this formulation is nowhere near the 5 milligrams that you will need to have any reaction in the body. A weird ingredient that's included and is insanely underdosed. And finally, the last ingredient is going to be TeaCrine, or TeaCrine is the brand name of that powder. It's basically a synthetic form of caffeine. The cool thing with TeaCrine is that it is effective, but it does have some synergistic effects with caffeine. There is a cool positive feedback loop where the TeaCrine does help to improve the bioavailability of the caffeine, and vice versa. So it is quite nice. That does explain why the caffeine content is considered pretty low or pretty tame compared to other pre-workouts that exist in the market. But again, we don't know how much of this TeaCrine is included in the dose. And again, it's hard to say what your safe and effective range of TeaCrine is, just because it'll depend on your body's tolerance to caffeine, as well as to TeaCrine, as well as to the interaction between both the caffeine and the TeaCrine in various combinations and quantities. That was the ingredient profile. Not impressive to say the least, and the reason I keep stressing minimum effective dose or clinically effective dose is that if you don't ingest quantities that hit that minimum dose, it's going to have no effect in the body. So one of the few positives about this product is the flavor. It does taste really good. I quite like the fruit punch version. I've also tried the icy blue raz. The other good thing is the mixability. It does mix quite well, whether with a spoon or in a shaker cup. There's no powderiness or grittiness to the powder. It does pretty much dissolve in the liquid. So now we move on to value. With the standard price point, you're looking at 50 cents per serve. If you can get it at Costco, it drops it down to 42 cents per serve, and that's the standard price. And then if you can find that coupon, which pops up every couple of months, I think it drops that price point per serve even lower. The thing to keep in mind is that if you are quite tolerant to caffeine, you're probably going to have to increase that from 1 scoop to probably 2 scoops. Then you're in that ballpark of other pre-workout powders where you're getting around 300 milligrams of caffeine per serve, because that's really going to be the main driver of this pre-workout, is that caffeine content and that TeaCrine content. So that brings me to the question of whether you should buy Cellucor C4 Original. No. I don't think you should buy it, because you're going to have a better effect just drinking a couple of cups of coffee and getting some creatine monohydrate powder. Just because of the way the cost profile works, you're really only paying for caffeine and a nice flavored drink, because all the other ingredients we've listed are either ineffective or not served in a high enough quantity to have any effective dose in the body. So moving on to that final rating, you're going to get a 2 out of 5 tubs for this pre-workout, just because there's not really any harmful ingredients in the mix, and it is quite affordable from that standpoint. So you're really looking at 50 cents a scoop or $1 per serve, which is it's probably around the price of a good cup of coffee or two. But again, my recommendation still stands. I would highly recommend just getting either some caffeine pills, instant powder, and some creatine monohydrate powder, and calling it a day, because that's really all you're paying for at this point. So I'll leave a link below for my blog post where I dive a little bit deeper into the ingredient profiles and just cite some of the sources that I've used. And you can read into that a little bit further if you want to dig into each individual ingredient to find out if the pre-workout you're taking is actually helpful or not. Drop a comment below to let me know what your favorite pre-workout is, or if you've used Cellucor C4 Original in the past and how you found it. This has been Selwyn from Wynn Strength, and remember, a better life through strength. That's that paresthesis.